pharmaceutical companies are fighting tooth and nail to make sure that pseudoephedrine remains over the counter. Now, this is the active ingredient in meth, and this is the active ingredient that has led to many meth labs in places like Kentucky. So this is an ongoing problem. There are only 2 states in the US right now, Oregon and Mississippi, that have banned pseudoephedrine over the counter. You have to get a prescription in order to get it. But after that happened in those 2 states, pharmaceutical companies created this intense, insane lobbying effort to make sure that no other state makes this a prescription drug. Now, some of you might wonder, well, does that mean that if I get a cold, I have to go get a prescription to get this medicine? No, there's tons of cold medicine out there that doesn't have this ingredient that'll still take care of your symptoms. But it doesn't matter. Pharmaceutical companies hired third parties that would do these continuous robocalls, and of course it would feed the public misinformation, and any legislation that was proposed in any other state would get shut down immediately. So it's really amazing. And the robocalls at the end would connect citizens to their local officials, so they can call the officials immediately and tell them, I do not support this, you better vote against it.
I wish we could afford that kind of stuff at Wolfpack, but when you're standing to make tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, you get a little bit better equipment, right?
Yes.
And to do the political machinations that you're going to do here. And of course they got the pull, and of course they're going to get, up and at them to make sure that they fight against this. I think all drugs should be legalized anyway, but this is not the right process.
This is not the right process. So let me just give you the details and explain how this is all working. So since 2007, clandestine meth sites have increased by 63% nationwide. And part of the reason why is because people are doing something known as smurfing, where they will go to a pharmacy or something and they will buy, like, how there's a limited amount of cold medicine like Sudafed that you can buy. Well, they will go to one pharmacy, they'll buy the limit, and then they'll go to another pharmacy and then they'll buy the limit.
Goddamn Smurfs.
They're smurfing, which is a crazy, crazy word for something so serious. Anyway.
And then Gargamel comes in and he buys the rest.
So we're seeing these meth labs pop up all over the country, especially in Kentucky. The number of meth labs has more than tripled. So that's a really, really big problem. And the reason why I say it's a problem is because you have a bunch of people who don't know what they're doing, trying to cook up meth, and then shit explodes in their face, and then they need to go to the emergency room. And then all of a sudden, we have to pay for it, because to treat the burns that they suffer as a result of those explosions, it usually costs around $250,000. And people who are cooking up meth, they're not all Walter White, okay? They're not making a ton of money, right? So they can't afford it themselves, and the taxpayer has to pay for it. Now, keep in mind, pharmaceutical companies are profiting tremendously by making sure that these drugs are over the counter. They don't want people to get a prescription to get it because it's an obstacle. They won't make as much money.
No, I know all the problems with meth in Kentucky because I watch Justified on FX. So I know how serious this is.
Meth use costs the United States $16 billion to $48 billion each year, depending on how many of these disastrous meth site blowups occur.
Yes, and of course, look, meth has also become more and more popular as a drug. That's part of the reason why the labs have increased as well. But I think reasonable authorities might make the argument we shouldn't make it easier on them.